Hey, this is Callan from Authentic Lifestyle Design, and today I want to talk to you about spiral dynamics again. I figured it'd be really fun to make a video on each stage and to go really deep, and that includes Beige, which is the first stage of the model. Again, there's 8 stages that increase in complexity. The model basically is how our consciousness as human beings expands and how we as human beings grow. And there's all these different models, and it takes a lifetime to move through them. Most people will never move fully through all these models. And we start at Beige, which is what we're going to talk about today, which is the most simplistic model. And we go all the way up to Turquoise, which is very complicated, and maybe only 1 in 10,000 human beings make it there within their lifetime. So let's get into it. If you have not watched my previous video introducing spiral dynamics, you'll have to do that before you watch this one, just so you know what I'm talking about. That gives you a brief overview of all the stages, and it also explores what the model is and how it's used and a bunch of other things. So give that a watch, and if you're up to date and know what spiral dynamics is, let's go in a bit more detail into Beige. So here's a little overview of Beige. So it's our most primal, fundamental stage we have. It's a highly animalistic stage, meaning this is where most animals operate from. They essentially have instincts that help them to survive, and they act on those impulses. Animals aren't really thinking far into the future, or at least most of them aren't. They're not planning or inquiring. You don't see animals doing philosophy or animals deeply contemplating their life choices. You just don't see that, and it's not a trait that is apparent at Beige. Beige hasn't developed the ability to do that yet. So it's highly animalistic. Beige is focused on survival. Beige just wants to keep alive. It's going off primal instinct, and your most primal instinct as a human being is to keep yourself alive. In this day and age, if you're living in a nice developed country, that's probably pretty easy to do, but historically, survival was a challenge for us human beings. Survival is something that took up a lot of our time. Just having food and water and shelter was a mission sometimes. And now we take it for granted because we all have these big houses and live in these cities and have governments that, for the most part, do look after us, despite what you think of the government or not. We have police, we have a bunch of other things. Our safety, our health, and all these things are more assured probably than any time in history, and that's really important. But at Beige, you're just trying to survive. You're in a survival mentality. It's just you against the world. You need food, you need water, you need shelter. You need to keep alive, you need to keep moving. That's what you're thinking at Beige. You're thinking one step at a time. Okay, I need to go and get that food over there. Or, okay, I need to go and hunt this animal so I can eat it. Or, okay, I'm going to freeze if I can't find a warm spot. Basics like that. Beige is really in this survival mentality. Another important thing of Beige is fight or flight. Now, like I said in my last video, it doesn't matter how high you climb up the spiral. If stress is introduced, it will cause you to move down the spiral temporarily. Now, fight or flight's probably the most extreme because that's going to pull you straight back to Beige. Say you're normally at green, this humanitarian kind of flowy level, and then something comes along like someone points a gun to your head, automatically you're straight back at Beige, you're in survival, and you move into a state called fight or flight. So it's exactly what it sounds like. Either you fight to defend yourself, or you flight, or you run away, you try to escape. And it's not a conscious decision. It's not, oh, should I do this or should I do this? No, your body will just react. At Beige, you're essentially a slave to your instincts. Your body will just react. It will respond. There's not really much conscious, deep thought going on at this phase. So you're trying to survive at any cost. You're trying to keep alive. You're not really thinking about other people at this stage. You just want to keep alive. You want to keep moving. You want to keep breathing. It's really primitive, really primal stage. And as well as that, They're aiming to meet those immediate survival needs. They're not thinking, in 10 years I'm going to be broke, I don't have any money. In 5 years I'm going to have no money. They're not like that. That's a really logical kind of stress. Fight or flight's more, my life is in danger, and it's an instinctual response. It's instinctually going, I need to protect myself. I need to have my basic needs met before I can move on. So if enough stress is introduced, mainly something life-threatening, you'll feel it. You'll go all the way back to beige, all the way back to the basics. If you've had a jump and you feel all tingly, or you react by fighting or flighting, either you run away or someone's jumped out and you've accidentally hit them, that's because you're pulled back into beige. You're just acting instinctually. So, there are pros to beige. Every stage is going to have pros and cons. The pros to beige, the first one is it's instinctual, meaning your body is protecting itself. Like you have an immune system that protects you, but also if enough stress is introduced, you'll go into fight or flight where you'll be in full survival mode. And all of us have this programmed into us. We all have this defense mechanism that allows us to protect ourselves. For example, if you're crossing a road and you hear a car horn, you don't have to consciously go, oh, that's a car horn, I'm going to jump out of the way. That doesn't work. Your body will just know it. It'll recognize the sound, and it'll try and get you out of the way of that car as quickly as possible. And you can train this skill. You can really hone in on this. For example, with martial arts and karate, which I do, we try to hone in this beige attribute of survival in combat. So if someone hits you, the idea is you can defend that and protect yourself subconsciously. So you don't have to think about blocking. Your body will just react to defend or attack or whatever it needs to do. And it's an instinctual thing every human being has inside of them. It also keeps you alive in high pressure or high stress situations. So if you're stressed out, it's important to know you have this system, right? Again, jumping out in front of the car. Or if there's an animal chasing you, automatically you're going to fight to defend yourself, or you're going to run and try to escape. It's just how we're built. Some people also can freeze up at beige. They can become paralyzed with fear and all sorts of different things. And fight or flight can be utilized in life-threatening situations. So when you're back in beige in pure survival, your mind's going to become pretty empty. You'll basically get pumped full of stress, you'll get pumped full of fear, and your body will try to the best of its ability to keep you going, to keep you alive. You've got to appreciate the system we have here. Most people forget just how complicated our bodies are and how much they're capable of. And to look into this fundamental stage is interesting. I've looked at other series on YouTube that break down spiral dynamics, and none of them go in depth about beige. They like to talk about the higher stages, but they really don't go into depth about beige. So I wanted to bring across a couple of points here and some of the pros of this level. Essentially, beige is like your protector. It's going to protect you from whatever might happen subconsciously. It's all programmed in. But of course, beige has many cons. Not many humans live in beige all the time. Most humans move out of this stage because, like I said, it's very primal, very primitive, and it's not very high up the spiral. But these are the main cons I could think of. First one is, in beige, you're not very logical, or to put it more blankly, you're not logical at all. That prefrontal cortex, you're not really using. You're not logically thinking. You're just reacting instinctually to survive. That's all it is. You're acting based off instincts. So it's like you're hungry, you're going to go eat. You're scared, you're going to fight, or you're going to run away. Even animalistically, if you need to reproduce or you have that pull, you're going to go and do that. That's going to be the forefront of your mind in an animalistic, really primal way. There's not going to be that gatekeeper of, I shouldn't do this because maybe this could happen, or then maybe this or this or this could happen. That part of you is kind of gone at beige. You're not consciously thinking about it, you're just responding. Your body's moving in this kind of survival orientated way, which is why I say it's pretty animalistic. And then at the same time, you could accidentally hurt somebody. So for example, I had someone jump out at me once and I hit them. because they triggered my fight or flight and my body responded to that. So pulling me back into beige basically caused me to hit somebody. Didn't really hurt them all too much, but I hit them enough for them to really feel it. And I apologized immediately afterwards, but that's because they scared me and they triggered my body into that response. And that's what can happen at beige. You can act without thinking because you're in a survival mode. You're in pure survival. You're not so much thinking, you're just acting, you're just doing. And then at the same time, it's really highly animalistic and it misses those human traits. So you think of all the things that make human beings different from animals, and you basically remove all of those things you can think of and you have beige. There's not really any difference between a human and an animal at this stage. It's very linear, very survival focused. So here's a couple of examples I could think of at stage beige. The first example I could think of is babies. Babies is a really simple one because when a baby's born and their brain's still developing, they're literally just acting on instincts. They're just responding. They're learning, but they're also just responding to the situation they're born in, which is why it's so important to look after babies and have them grow up in a safe, comfortable, loving environment. It means more than, everyone knows it's important, but it is more important even then than what most people think it is. So what do babies do if they're hungry? They cry. What do they do if they're scared? They cry. What do they do if they're tired? They cry. Now, this isn't a constant, at least initially, I'm going to cry because I want people to notice that I'm doing stuff. All this at the point of a newborn baby or a young baby is basically survival. It's instinctual. It's programmed in. The rest of it comes in later. It's not until a baby's maybe a year old or even older that they consciously cry because they want something. And that's a really important thing. We all start at beige. Every human being starts at beige. And we can move our way up this spiral. So we all start in the same place, which is pretty cool. Another example is many animals. For example, you think of, some animals hunt in packs, which is getting into purple to an extent. It's like a beigey purple. Pure beige would be a kind of animal that just fends for itself, that doesn't really hang out with other animals. So beige is an animal in a survival state, an animal that's just trying to survive. And a lot of animals do. You look at how animals move, they're acting instinctually, a lot of them. They're just responding or they're just doing something. But they're not consciously, deeply thinking about what they're doing. They're sort of just doing it. They're sort of just being themselves in a very true way. Another example, which we've talked about, is people in highly stressful or life-threatening situations. Because if, as stress is introduced, you move down the spiral. If a overwhelming, crazy amount of stress is introduced, it'll pull you right down to beige. It doesn't matter if you're at turquoise, which is the highest level. If enough stress comes along, it's going to pull you straight down to beige. It's going to pull you straight into survival. It's a subconscious thing we have programmed into us. And then the last one I've got here is people with a severe disability that limits their higher order thinking. By higher order thinking, I mean logic or being able to make decisions, being able to think things through deeply. And when I say severe disability, I mean severe. I mean to the extent where this person probably has no command over language, they can't read, they can't write, they have trouble communicating, they're very emotionally driven, and again, they're acting based off their instincts and they're not thinking about necessarily long-term consequences. So in that way, someone with an extreme mental disability would almost be like a baby. They would just carry on when they need met. They'd either make some kind of sound or gesture to get it, or they might go and take it by force because they're constantly going to be in this very low wave of consciousness and they're going to be really stressed out. So they're the examples I could think of. This is the most simple stage and there's probably the least amount to talk about for this one, but I still thought it's fair and it's good to make a video on every stage, and that includes beige. So I'll continue to make a video on all the others. The next one's going to be purple, which is our tribal stage. So essentially you're at beige and you move into the next stage. And we can talk about that briefly. This is how to transcend stage beige to purple, okay? So the first and most important thing is to get to a place where you aren't in danger, okay? It's important that you're not in danger when going through something like this. If that danger and that stress is eliminated, it's going to allow you to chill out a little bit and you'll move into a group survival mentality, or you'll move into purple. Either that or you'll move back up to wherever it is you are. Because you look at babies, they start at beige and they move to purple. All of a sudden, it's their family, their parents. Their parents are almost like gods at purple. Their parents are these magical beings that provide love and life and all these amazing things. And they don't know how the world works yet. They're still learning, right? Also, you have to ensure that your basic survival needs are met. So that includes you need food, water, sleep, safety. Probably love helps too, a bunch of other things. And it's also important probably to fall in or find another tribe of people to survive with and work together. This is assuming you're at beige and you've never moved beyond beige. If all of a sudden you're not as stressed out, you have this human brain and it functions well, and you find a group of people to survive with, then you will be able to move into purple and to form a tribe. You'll be able to form something bigger than yourself. So I hope you learned a little bit about beige from this video, and I'm going to make sure to add a couple more. Also, yeah, I did notice a typo in that first dot point where it says get to place. It's supposed to say get to a place. Now you've noticed it if you didn't before, which is always good fun. So yeah, if you like this video, can you give it a like, comment, subscribe to this channel. Let me know what kind of content you want to see. I'm just kind of throwing stuff out into the universe. It's still a really quiet channel. There's not much going on here, but I'm going to keep throwing out videos. I'm going to keep honing my craft. And I hope I can help a couple of people. The reason I make these videos, I have that discipline to try and make 2 a week. The reason I do that is because long term, over the decades and decades I'm here on this planet, I want to help people. And I want to build a tribe of awesome people that are building authentic, beautiful lives. That sounds amazing. I mean, my demographic, or the people I want to help particularly, is men from about their late teens to their early 30s. But at the same time, I'm open to helping anybody. Just because that's my target audience doesn't mean that other people won't benefit from some of the videos I make. So I hope you gained some value out of this, and I will talk to you soon.